So let me guess, you currently live in Texas and you're thinking about moving possibly to North Carolina, but before you make the move, you want a little bit more information. Well, stay tuned. In this video, I'm diving in not only on information I found online, but also from clients of mine who have moved from Texas and have given me their own scoop on some of the differences, good, bad, and everything in between Texas and North Carolina. And stay tuned to the very end because I'm actually going to go into some detail about something that most people don't talk about. And it has to do with our population. So if you're looking for all things Charlotte, North Carolina, and South Carolina, the good, the bad, and everything in between, be sure to go ahead and like and subscribe to my channel and stay up to date on everything I post having to do with Charlotte. Now, if you want to know exactly when I post, go ahead and hit that notification button and I'll even notify you directly to your phone. Now, I get calls, texts, emails, Zoom invites, literally every single day. And by the way, I love this. For those of you who are wondering if I would have time for you if you gave me a call, I do. And I would love to hear from you. Now, whether that is 9 days from now that you're moving or 90 days from now, whether you're moving across the country, across the world, or just across Charlotte, I would love to help make your move everything you want it to be. Go ahead and shoot me a text, give me a call, an email, shoot me a Zoom. Go ahead and look below in the description. All my contact information is there. I want to hear from you. Let's dive into our video for today. I am doing a huge comparison on Texas versus North Carolina. Now, aside from the slight differences in accents, there's a lot of other big differences you need to be aware of and why I'm a little bit partial to North Carolina. Now, you might be wondering, yes, it's probably because I live here and maybe I'm from here. Actually, I'm not. If you haven't seen some of my other videos, I actually was born and raised in New York, and while I have been here more than half my life at this point, I would choose North Carolina hands down over every other state, and today I'm going to teach you why it's North Carolina hands down over Texas. Let's dive in. Now, the first one, I'm going to start off by saying this one, Texas has North Carolina beat when it comes to income taxes. Now, if you're already in Texas, you know you don't have income taxes, but in North Carolina, we are one of the lowest income tax states in the country. Now, while at this point it's at about 4.25, it's being reduced steadily till it hits 3.99, and it will stay there forever. Well, at least until legislation changes, right? But the way in which they're doing it is each year they're reducing it just a little bit more until they reach that 3.99 by 2025. Now let's talk about some other taxes. While North Carolina does have income tax and Texas doesn't, North Carolina actually beats out Texas when it comes to overall taxation. North Carolina is rated 35 when it comes to overall tax burden from the state. And when I say from the state, everything included that you could potentially be paying taxes on. Meanwhile, Texas is rated 42nd in the nation when it comes to the tax burden. Now, while Texas does not have state property tax, it does have local property taxes, which are at about 1.8%. Meanwhile, in North Carolina, we're at 0.74%. So Texas is nearly twice as much than North Carolina's when it comes to state property taxes. So let's talk schools for a second. I know everybody has their pros and cons about schools, and I'm gonna be honest, not every school in North Carolina is great. But you're gonna have that in pretty much every state across the nation and probably everywhere around the world. However, when we're doing a comparison of North Carolina to Texas, North Carolina kicks butt. North Carolina rates 7th on the National Higher Education Standard. So we're talking about colleges. And it's rated 15th in the nation when it comes to K through 12. Now on the flip side, let's talk about Texas. Texas is rated 31st in the nation when it comes to higher education, and it's rated 35th in K through 12. So if you're moving here with school-age children between K and 12, you have come to the right place or will come to the right place when you're coming to North Carolina over Texas. Now, when it comes to the higher education, when we're talking about colleges, there's a lot of reasons why North Carolina kicks butt. One of the reasons is the many offerings for additional or higher level education. Now, while North Carolina has plenty of private schools and smaller schools, it also has city, or what you would say county schools, you also have a ton of state schools. Now, going from the west to the east, you've got Western Carolina, you've got Asheville, you have Appalachian State, which is up in Boone, you have UNC Charlotte, Greensboro, then we go on out to the Raleigh area, Chapel Hill, we have UNC Chapel Hill, we have NC State, go Pack, then we have ECU, and then out to the coast we have Wilmington. Now, those are just a few off the top of my head, and those are the larger state schools. There's a ton more, and especially some major private schools. So I, hands down, would vote North Carolina over Texas when it comes to colleges. Okay, so let's talk about a touchy topic here, politics. Yes, I actually get this question a lot, and while you can go for one side or the other or right down the middle, but when you're moving somewhere, you want to make sure there are like-minded people like you and a little bit of diversification. Well, here's the cool thing. Texas actually aligns pretty well with how North Carolina rolls. What that means is in more of the major cities, they do lean a little bit more Democratic, while outside of the cities are usually more Republican. Now in Texas, about 40% of the population are Republicans. In North Carolina, it's actually a higher Republican count, but still right along the same lines. So the voting practices are about the same. One thing you will notice in North Carolina is that when we're talking about actual political donations to the parties, while there are more individuals donating to the Democratic parties, there are higher donations with lesser people donating to the Republican Party. Now, while that might not make a huge difference, what it shows me is there are people from both parties having a conversation and coming together. And you're gonna find in North Carolina that we tote right down the middle, which I absolutely love. Okay, so this isn't talked about a whole heck of a lot, but let's talk about the landscape. Now, I have visited Texas quite a bit in various areas of Texas, north, south, east, and west. And what I can tell you is there's a lot of brown. Now, I know that's because you guys don't get a whole lot of rain. And in North Carolina, we do. Now, up in the mountains in the Smokies, the smoke is actually just fog. But that fog sits in the mountains, and why? Because we have moisture and humidity. It's actually considered a temperate rainforest, which is pretty darn cool. So what are you gonna expect when you come to North Carolina? We have mountains, we have foothills, we have some flatlands and the sands, and we have the beaches. Now, North Carolina beaches are way different than Texas. While I know you guys do have the Gulf of Mexico for a short stretch there, North Carolina has a ton of beaches, all the way north up into Virginia, down touching into South Carolina. And the nice thing about that, you could live just about anywhere, or you can live in a major city like Charlotte and be able to travel to any one of those destinations in a short period of time. By the way, we're gonna get to that in a second. Now in Texas, you're not gonna have that much when it comes to diversity of landscape. What you do have is a whole lot of land, and by the way, I do love the hill country. It's absolutely gorgeous. But when it comes to North Carolina, it has my heart because it has literally any type of landscape I could possibly be looking for. Up next, we're gonna talk about job opportunities. Now, in looking at this, I'm gonna take a look at the unemployment rate and the ranking in the United States. Now, for North Carolina, it's at 3.3% unemployment. The interesting thing is, in Charlotte and the surrounding areas, it actually has an even lower unemployment rate, which is wonderful, especially if you're looking to move here. Now, overall ranking in the United States is at 29th in the country when it comes to unemployment, which is a good thing. Texas is ranked a little bit higher. Texas unemployment rate is at 4.1%, and it's ranked 45th out of 50 states for unemployment. Now, this doesn't look great for Texas, but trust me, I know you Texans are battling some other things that might be getting in the way, and that leads us into our next topic, immigration. Now, whether you are for or against security at the border, what I can tell you is Texas has a bigger challenge with that than North Carolina. Now, when looking at the unauthorized populations in both states, meaning those who are undocumented or here illegally in the country, it's a vast, vast difference. North Carolina has 296 undocumented or illegal persons in the state, those who do not have documentation to be here in the country. While when we look at Texas, y'all have 1,739 individuals who are unauthorized to be in the country living in Texas. Now, that puts a strain on a lot of things, going back to unemployment. yes, sometimes it is less expensive for employers to hire those who, well, can work for a little bit less, which does take a hit when it comes to employment in a state. Now, North Carolina has seen an uptick in some of this population as Florida has put in its more strict rules when it comes to hiring those that are unauthorized to be in the country. Now, while North Carolina does have e-verification as well, it's just not as strict as those in Florida. So some have made the migration to North Carolina, but it still is at 296,000. So well below what Texas is battling right now. So if you're looking for a place with a little bit less of that, North Carolina is definitely a great place to look. Okay, this next one's probably pretty obvious, but we're gonna talk about the weather. That's right. Texas, you know where you're at with your weather. You just had a record summer in 2023 with averages in the upper 80s and multiple days of 105 to 110 degrees. I don't know how you do it. Now in North Carolina, yes, we do get some hot days in summer, but our average days when we're in summertime are in the low 80s. Now we do get those hot days, I'm talking about averages. Let's talk about some other differences between the weather in Texas and North Carolina. One, we don't get many major, I would say, weather incidents. No floods, no tornadoes, we don't get earthquakes, not that you do either. We really don't get hurricanes. Now I say we really don't get hurricanes. You'll see when a hurricane comes through on every weather map, there'll be a big old band that comes right through and sweeps right over North Carolina. Here's the thing, we just get a little bit of rain and sometimes it's just clouds. In fact, the last hurricane to hit Charlotte, North Carolina that was at all impactful was Hugo in 1989. Now, some other parts of North Carolina do get some hurricanes if you're headed further out to the east, such as Wilmington and sometimes a little bit of Raleigh. But in most cases, Raleigh is really just getting heavy rains, and Wilmington can get a little bit of flooding, but again, it's very minor. Now, from a day-to-day perspective of North Carolina versus Texas, we do have 4 seasons. We really don't get snow unless you're up in the mountains. And I mean, like, when I say really don't get snow, I live in Charlotte and I have not shoveled snow in 8 years. That's right. We may get a little flurry, but that is about it. Now, one challenge with that is because we don't get snow, if we do, it does shut the city down. The good thing is the snow is usually melted within about 24 hours and everybody goes back to life as usual. Now in Texas, I know certain areas do get snow, but we also don't get anything extreme like the weather you had a few years ago where everything got shut down in an ice storm. Nope, we don't get that either. Now, last but not least, we have this thing called humidity. Now, while some people do not like the humidity in the Carolinas, personally, compared to more desert or drier climates, I absolutely love it, and your skin will love it too. No more lathering up with lotion every single day. The moisture in the air will do the touch. However, in summer, I will warn you, sometimes it can get a little bit muggy, but I will still take it over the dry, extreme temperatures. So if you're looking for a nice place to live that has very median temperatures throughout the year where you don't need a heavy winter coat, but you do have summertime and can use your pool, this is the place to go. I will add one more note when it comes to pool time. You will get a solid 5 to 6 months of pool usage in North Carolina. That's right, many pools are opening up in late April, early May, and honestly, you can keep it open until early October because the temperatures are still warm. So yeah, I love the weather here. Now, last but not least, kind of tying this into a bow, is the overall cost of living. Now, Texas has been known for its lower cost of living against the rest of the United States averages, and that is true. Now, North Carolina does have some pretty low cost of living as well, especially dependent upon where you are, whether you're more rural or you're in a city. Living in a major city does come with extra costs, such as city and county taxes, as well as some different sales taxes, depending upon the city that you're in. When we're looking at national for cost of living, the nation being set at 100, if that's the number we're looking at, Texas is at 92.9. North Carolina is not that far behind it at 95.8. So if you want similar cost of living, but in a much better state with better weather, better schools, better taxes, and a better quality of life, North Carolina is probably the spot for you, and I highly recommend specifically Charlotte, North Carolina. I hope you gleaned a ton of information from this video, and I want to hear your thoughts. Are there things that I left out? Maybe you want an insider's view on what it's like to truly live in Charlotte? Go ahead and drop your comments below, and I will absolutely answer them. And if you liked what you heard here, go ahead and like and subscribe. I would love to have you as a follower and give you even more information on the city I love called Charlotte, North Carolina. Now, I don't care whether it's 9 days or 90 days, whether you're moving across the country or just across town. I truly want to make your move everything you want it to be. All my contact information to Zoom, text, anything me is down in the description below. Be sure to reach out. And until next time, I look forward to showing you around town.